Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Woods. I'm a writer in Columbus, Ohio, and a lifelong Prince fan. And I'm here to talk about the song Solo and why you need to stop whatever you're doing and listen to it right now or in about 20 minutes. Little background on the album that Solo comes from, 1994's Come. Come is ultimately an album Prince did not give much attention to upon its release. His well-documented battles with Warner Brothers at the time had hit a fever pitch, and so there's a little bit of middle finger to this record. People make great hay about the fact that 1996's Chaos and Disorder was publicly proclaimed as a contractual obligation record, but Come was the prototype and frankly is more intensely antagonizing. Prince's music is largely a catalog of incidents in the life of a musical genius. So Come is not only a middle finger, but petulant. His ire was largely relegated this time to presentation, the morbid cover, the petty and revolving song selection, writing Slave on His Face, so on. He practically ignored the album when it dropped. Yes, to piss off his label, but also because he was focused on getting to the gold experience. In his words, Prince's Come was comprised of old music, while his artist formerly known as work would be new music. Old and busted, new hotness, right? Time prevents me from laying out the fascinating timeline and permutations that got us to the version that eventually hit streets. But Solo's path is instructive. He gave Warner Brothers 4 versions of Come over a full year before Solo enters the lineup in March of 94. We believe he recorded the song in May of 93, which means it kept missing the bar for entry to be on the album until the very end when he delivers the project to Warner Brothers in May of 94. It would be released a few months later as the B-side to the first single, Let It Go, and then 2 weeks later on the album proper. 1993 is an extremely fertile creative period, and when you consider the body of work that we know he created during this time, there's a thread that reveals itself. A lot of the work is dark. We can guess what a few of his main stresses were, looking at you, Warner Brothers. But I'm talking about full-on ruminations on loss and mortality, either in image, Sacrifice of Victor, Undertaker, Come album cover, or actual musical content, Papa, Dark, the therapy-inducing revelations of Let It Go. There is a lot of heartache marked and masked by grooves on this album. And Solo is the king of pain on this venture. It is the saddest, most vulnerable song on the record. While there's a trio version of Solo recorded with Michael B on drums, Sonny T on bass, the version that made it to light is the solo version. And while I do a lot of things to hear that unreleased version, it must be said that the solo version is, frankly, the best encapsulation of the idea. So, what is Solo? It's 3 minutes and 48 seconds of Prince singing, and almost only that. It has a lone vocal track, no background singing, no layering. There's no bass line, no drums, no established time signature. It is essentially Prince playing a heart patch and the occasional thunderstorm sound effect. The music is so disconnected from Prince's voice tonally, so ornamental, that it is almost certainly an instance in which the track was recorded a cappella and all other elements were added later. I don't know that anyone has confirmed otherwise, but since Prince frequently recorded vocals alone, we'll probably never know the truth, but that's 99% what happened. No other sonic element besides his voice enters the fray until 1 minute and 2 seconds. If the harp and thunder effects were removed, the song would be virtually unchanged. Prince had done this kind of freestyle arrangement as early as 1985 on Condition of the Heart, but in that song, capped his wanderlust with a rhythmic progression, pulling the nose of the plane up with a proper arrangement for the second half of the song. He would do so again around the edges of 1988's Love Sexy LP Here and There, but mostly as interlude dust. Prince would approximate this technique again as early as 1987 for Ingrid Chavez's self-titled debut, aka May 1992, an album containing a couple of examples of him sprinkling sonic elements around Chavez's poetry, though the best efforts did not make it to the album proper. But the song that gets closest to what Solo does as a production, meaning mostly a cappella, with the vocal arrangement unchanged by the introduction of other musical elements, is the very first Prince song, For You, in 1978. It is fitting that the first song by which the world comes to know him is a cappella. For You, the song, can and should be read as Prince introducing himself, bearing himself before us. When he wants to be entirely himself, it is not uncommon for him to employ a cappella technique. Prince was, by his own admission, and though his taste in the poetry of others could be debated, myself included, it's interesting that someone so good at poetry would be so hit or miss in choosing the work of others to hold up, but that's another presentation. I would be remiss to not direct those interested in deeper dives on his lyrics and poeticisms to Celie McInnes's brilliant book, The Lyrics of Prince Rogers Nelson, a literary look at a creative musical poet, philosopher, and storyteller. Hello, chat. Speaking of poetry, the lyrics for Solo consist entirely of a poem by multi-genre writer Henry David Hwang. This is one of the extremely rare instances in which we can confirm Prince asked someone else to provide lyrics to something he intended to record for himself. Prince had certainly been known to take the occasional song wholesale, Do Me Baby, Jungle Love, or repurpose others, Soul Sanctuary, or take an unbidden lyric and turn it into a song, The Arms of Orion, Somebody, Somebody. But commissioning lyrics was something else entirely. Prince is a formidable poet in his own right. Deferring to the abilities of someone else's lyrical pen is an act so rare in his catalog that it borders on unique. Save for Hide the Bone, it also depends on where you come down on La 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 He He He. Prince saw Hwang's Broadway play M Butterfly in 1989, the year after it debuted. It manages to be both a confounding and completely understandable choice of entertainment for Prince, given its homoerotic plot. Whose idea was this excursion? Was he put off by it? Did he enjoy it? Did he dig that Hwang had himself remixed the play out of a previous musical work, the 1904 Puccini Illica Giacosa opera Madama Butterfly? Was this just more of Prince's creative magpie tendencies at work, his Pollock-like accumulation of inspirations and muses thrown against the wall of his imagination to see what stuck? Perhaps the recurring themes of otherness in Hwang's work spoke to Prince. He certainly would have been able to relate to the epic power and racial struggles of many of Hwang's characters in the post-M Butterfly explosion, especially in the midst of a row with Warner Brothers. We'll likely never know. What we do know is that 4 years later, in 1993, Prince reached out to Hwang about collaborating on a musical. They met at Prince's penthouse at Manhattan's Regal Royal Hotel and discussed the potential project. By the end of their meeting, Prince had gotten Hwang to agree to writing a script or libretto. And as an aside, Prince asked for a poem to use as a spoken song interlude. They met at Prince's penthouse. The ask was given. Hwang said, yes, let's do it. Hwang, a Prince fan since Dirty Mind, wrote this of the exchange on his now shuttered website, You Offend Me, You Offend My Family. Quote, Prince said he'd like me to write a poem for him about loss, the way you feel when you've lost someone you love, and you know they're never coming back, and that for the rest of your life, you're going to be alone. He wants to do a song that suddenly breaks into a spoken word interlude. He rolls his eyes. They're going to say the boys lost it this time. I wrote a poem about love and loss, fax it to Paisley Park. A few days later, I get another cassette, a new song incorporating my poem. It's called Solo. Hey, I've written a song with Prince just like that. The musical doesn't end up working out, and Prince and I have never had reason to speak again. But a year later, I got a call from the woman at Paisley Park. Just wanted to let you know the album's coming out. It will include Solo. We're thinking it's probably also going to be the B-side of the first single. I'm glad because it's one of my favorite tracks. End quote. So that's how Solo happened. Let's look at the poem / lyric for Solo. I'll read it very quickly. So low, the curb looks like a skyscraper. So high, the stars are under me. So quiet, I can hear the blood rushing through my veins. So low, I feel like I'm going insane. The angels, they watch and wonder when you made love to me. Through the rain and the thunder, you cried in ecstasy. And you were so kind. I felt sorry for all creation because at the time, no one was lucky. No one was lucky. No one was lucky as me. And now you're gone. And I just want to be still. So silent, I'll just let my senses sleep. It's going to be so hard to hear my voice if I ever learn once more to speak. I'm so lost. No one can find me. And I've been looking for so long, but now I'm done. I'm so low. So low, my name is no one. Yawn. As poems go, there isn't much here that you won't find at your local open mic. It is, as poets say, a bit on the nose, metaphorically speaking. There are some interesting construction decisions. Rhyme comes and goes. There's a little wordplay at the end, high image count throughout. It's almost clever, but not outstanding as poems go. It's not good. I imagine if Hwang had taken more time to write it, we'd have gotten something completely different. In 1993, he was not yet the librettist he would become in the 2000s. Prince asking Hwang for lyrics is very left field when you consider that he was always angling to write a musical. And Come is an album literally made from show tune bones. Most of its tracks appear in 1993's brief musical theater offering Glam Slam Ulysses, but not Solo. Conversely, Solo is a showstopper in the way of the conversation. It sneaks up on you. It's one of those Prince songs in which he uses almost every note in his vocal range, cranking up the resonance of the lyrics. Stylistically, it is part prayer, lullaby, gospel, opera, and blues soul holler. That last line is a particularly slick bit of wordplay. In 1993, Prince is neck deep in Homer's Odyssey as inspiration. Those familiar with the scene in Odyssey in which Ulysses encounters the Cyclops Polyphemus will recall how our intrepid adventurer tries to escape from the clutches of the giant by stating that his name is no one, which both helps and hurts Ulysses as the story progresses. We do not know if this is a purely Hwang invention or if Prince requested the infusion of Odyssey elements in the ask, or if Prince took it upon himself to tweak the line. The phrase sticks out in an otherwise below average poem, so it could go any of those ways. However it got there, the line really makes the song and serves as a perfect denouement. Here is a song about being left utterly alone, so alone that all that is left is an echo of the person left behind, echo also being a tragic Greek figure. It is as if an entire universe of sorrow has collapsed into this one lonely body. Poetically speaking, only every sound that body can emit can do the sorrow justice. And that is what Prince gives us. 99% of his entire singing range, top to bottom, emptied out in one fell swoop. He is emptying his body as vessel to make room for whatever comes next. Prince pours almost every note he can out of his body, an exorcism of his grief that leaves him without a body, without substance, effectively becoming no one. Solo is one of the most stunning displays of Prince's vocal prowess in his entire catalog. It was performed only once live that we know of. No reliable record exists of it beyond that. I'd like to think that the song was too personal, drew too deep from the well of his experiences to be shuffled into regular playlists alongside the hits. But having heard the recording of this one live performance in 1994 in Paris at Le Bataclan, I can see why he opted out of ever performing it again. The crowd was amped up. The band had just finished a hardcore burnout jam in front of it, and Prince did it more or less how it is on the record. A cappella, zero embellishments. Even the reverb that's on the record is gone. So the performance comes off flat. The crowd doesn't know the song, so they don't know not to yell during the quiet parts. The audience also don't know that the song has multiple peaks and builds, so they end up applauding halfway through the song as if it were done. Prince stops the song with half a poem to go at the "You cried in ecstasy" line, and no one is the wiser. Solo simply didn't lend itself to an intense crowd situation. And I get it. Solo is not a normal song. You can't just bump it unless you want your day to stop. Here is a list of approved activities one may partake in during a playing of Solo. Drink, muse, meditate, cry, listen to environmental records, listen to actual environment, breakup sex, borrow father's Thunderbird and drive aimlessly, drink Thunderbird aimlessly, repent, you slovenly heathens. Whatever you do, don't just listen to it, experience it. I don't think you have a choice. Thank you for your time and your patience with my flights of fancy and projective whim.